Hey YouTube, Camaro Joe 982 here, and today I'm going to talk about irony. Sitting behind me here is my 1998 BMW M3 sedan. A couple things are special about this car. One, it has 350,000 miles on it. Two, it's pretty rusty. Three, it's probably one of the cheapest E36 M3s for sale in the United States. I purchased it for only $2,000. And it's also probably one of the highest mileage E36 M3s in the country. So you might be thinking, why purchase this car? Well, it has a good story to go along with it, and that's what I'm going to get into today. To start off, I purchased this car from a good friend of mine, Tristan. Thanks, Tristan. Second of all, I bought this car on complete coincidence. I wasn't planning on buying another car. I already have enough projects going on as it is. We all know how that goes. But there was something telling me that I should buy this car. Don't know what it was. Call it fate, call it luck, whatever you want to call it. But notice something. Notice the imprint in the bumper. That'll come into play in a few minutes. In purchasing this car, I had no idea the story that would go along with it. In order to do that, I need to insert this video from almost 10 years ago when I was 13 years old.
Hey YouTube, it's Camaro Joe 982. Today, I'm just going to show you a car my dad's been driving for the past couple days for a customer. He works at an auto dealership. It's a BMW M3. I'm just going to do a walk around. I would like to do a startup, but my dad, he doesn't want to come outside and do a startup, so. But, that's a BMW M3. It was having coolant leaking problems. It was leaking coolant. M3. It's basically, well, all it is the performance model of the 3 Series. But yeah, it's a nice car. I'm just doing a walk around. It's got a, I think it's a 5-speed. No, it's actually a 4-speed. No, it is a 5-speed. My bad. 5-speed manual. And let me tell you, well, it's got, I think it's got one small exhaust upgrade, but that's about it. But this thing will glue you to your seat. This thing is fast. This thing's fast off the line and fast, period. It's a nice car. I like it. It will, like I said, glue you to your seat. But yeah, this is a nice BMW I've seen. It's got a decent interior in it. I would like to go on the inside too, but it's locked. But this is just going to be a short walk around so you can see the car. It's a low car, I can tell you that. The Tahoes and the Yukons and stuff on the road, they feel like tractor trailers compared to this thing. It's so low. It's a nice car though, I like it. You got a little taste of the interior there. It's leather seats. Nice stuff. But anyway, that's about it. Just BMW M3.
You may have caught a glimpse of the Navy 09 bumper sticker that was on the back of this thing almost 10 years ago. That's right, the car that I unknowingly purchased was the car that left such an impression on me when I was 13 years old. Pretty cool story. You may be wondering, what's compromised buying a BMW with 350,000 miles on it? Well, the answer to that, we have to find out by driving it. So let's go. Alright, so just to give you guys the full story on this car real quick. Back in 2011, my father worked at a European import shop in our area. So he used to occasionally bring home cars for customers to confirm fixes. Say if it was like a leak, or if it was a recurring issue that it would have to be driven for miles and miles to see if it was indeed fixed. So in this case of this car, it had a coolant leak issue. I'm not sure if it was one of the times that the entire cooling system was replaced So basically he was driving it for the customer, making sure that, you know, the coolant leak was fixed. So he brought it home the one night, and, you know, I mean, it's an M3, so on the way home he did accelerate quickly, and I sat in this very passenger seat, and I was captivated. I loved it from the second I rode in it. So I've actually had this car for about a month, and I had no idea up until a couple days ago that this was the exact car that I made the video on when I was younger. I was actually driving to a family member's house the other day, and I was just sitting there thinking about it, and I remembered making that video when I was younger. So I went back into the video library and I watched that video again. So in the video, it shows the vanity tag that was on the car at the time. So with that, I texted one of my dad's old coworkers, who's also a good friend of mine, and I asked him, I said, hey, do you remember the tag that was on that BMW before Tristan got it? And he says, yeah, and he rattled off the name. And that's when it hit me. I looked at it back in the video, and I saw that the tag matched up, and I'm like, wow, this was the car that I made the video on. I do believe that I was eventually meant to have this car. That's as crazy as that works. But it's just really awesome. A really awesome story. I was so hopeful, and I loved this car so much when I was a kid. Loved it enough to make a video about it, and now I own it. Alright, so today we're out driving some beautiful back roads in central Maryland to tell you about how this E36 M3 with 350,000 miles on it drives. So, this one is going to be a bit biased because the previous owner, Tristan, once again, thank you Tristan, did a lot of work to bring this car back up to a good standard. Tristan replaced pretty much all of the mounts and bushings in this car with polyurethane mounts and bushings, which are awesome. I love them. You really feel everything, and that's one of the things I really love about this car. The chassis is fantastic. Probably the best handling car I've ever owned, and it is definitely one of the best handling cars in the 90s, and I think a lot of people would agree with that. One of the cool things about this car is I had access to pretty much all the service records since the owner who owned it before Tristan owned it. The previous owner spent, wait for it, $41,000 keeping this car on the road. Serviced at the same shop from when he got the car in 2006 to 2018. The owner prior to Tristan put a lot of miles on this car. So even in doing the calculations, he only spent about 22 cents per mile on this car to keep it on the road for that 12 years that he had it. And that's really not too bad. Now, the only major work that has been done to this S52 was the top end was rebuilt at, I believe, 250,000 miles. Other than that, stock bottom end, engine's never been replaced. The cooling system must have been redone 10 or 12 times. On the service records, that was a lot of the issues with this car, were cooling issues. Luckily, again, thank you, Tristan, he replaced the radiator with an aluminum Mishimoto. All of the coolant hoses are silicone, and the water pump, I believe it has the metal impeller water pump, and the thermostat, it's all been completely redone, I believe for the second time now, because the first Mishimoto that he got was defective and wound up leaking. So the cooling system's been bulletproofed, all of the mounts and bushings have been replaced. He doesn't know when the clutch was ever done, and there's no record of it on the service records between 2006 and 2018. So could this be an original 350,000 mile clutch? Maybe. I doubt it, but who knows? Anything's possible. If the car was driven right, certainly I could see a clutch lasting that long, but you never know. The only modifications this car really has done, aside from the poly mounts and everything, it has a set of Eibach lowering springs and Bilstein yellow shocks and struts, and it has a resonator delete and a Borlum muffler, which sounds absolutely perfect. this S52, it's never going to get old. It sounds so good. The single Vanos, it's very simple, and clearly it's a pretty bulletproof design if it can last this long. All the suspension work and everything that Tristan did on this car, really, I mean, it doesn't feel like it could have 350,000 miles on it whatsoever. It handles, it's still nice and tight. The only upgrade I feel like I'm probably going to do to it is going to be the Z3 1.9 steering rack upgrade. It's a bit of a quicker ratio than the standard M3. But this car, all in all, feels fantastic. Oh, he also replaced the shifter bushings with the polyurethane shifter bushings as well as installed a short shifter. So this thing is literally perfect. The throws are perfect. The feel is fantastic. It's difficult to miss a gear. The only issue it did have when I got it was the shift knob, which was an easy $50 fix from Amazon. Nice new shift knob, and it's good to go. I mean, the check engine light isn't even on. It comes on sometimes for catalyst efficiency, but what goes through the corners, man, I'll take some corners here. Goes through the corners. Everything feels good with the shifter. And it's properly fast. Heel toe, you can heel toe in it. It's nice. Bring the back end around a little bit. Now, as for plans for this car, the only thing I really plan to do to it is just restore it. I think it's got the perfect amount of tasteful mods done to it. It drives amazing. I mean, it's really fun to drive. You don't need to boost it. You don't need to do anything like that to it if you're just going to be doing like what I'm doing here with it and then taking it to shows and things like that. You really don't need to do anything crazy to it. So I'm not going to. I'm going to leave it as is. Just restore it. So obviously the rockers, as you saw from probably some of the shots, the rockers are pretty gone. But I'm gonna get them done. I'm gonna get them fixed. I'm gonna get them fixed properly. I've been speaking with a shop, a little two-man shop. They do all kinds of body work, and they think they can repair it properly. What's really gonna tell the whole story is when I actually pull the side skirts off. Once I pull the side skirts off, it'll give me a better idea of exactly the extent of the damage to the rockers. Just fix all the parts that are rusty, and maybe get it painted. And eventually, when the motor dies, who knows when that'll be, pull it out, rebuild it, whatever, you know, just enjoy it as it is right now. The other thing is I want to put the interior back together. So obviously it's missing a headliner. The A-pillar trims are missing. The seats are pretty torn. As for plans for this car, really just restore it, honestly. I love it the way it is. I wasn't planning on buying another car, but when he told me about it and he came up with the price and I drove it, it was a no-brainer. I had to have this car, so I bought it. But now it turns out, as fate would have it, it was the very same car that I sat in this very passenger seat in when I was 13 years old with my dad and absolutely loved when I was a kid. I loved this car. The other thing I also want to do that I didn't mention yet is I actually bought a rear subframe for it. It's one that's in fantastic condition with OEM bushings in it. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to probably strip and powder coat that subframe, and then I'm going to do the weld-in reinforcements for the rear subframe to make sure that the body doesn't crack and to make sure that the rear subframe doesn't crack. Oh, and I forgot to mention it does have the limited slip rear diff, and it does work. But yeah, it's fantastic. It's incredible. sounds like a bucket of bolts when you start it up cold. But in doing some research and talking to some other BMW owners, apparently it's a common thing with all S52s. They just do it, even the low mileage ones. So I'm really not concerned about it. No weird noises once it's warmed up, nothing like that. And I mean, it just runs so strong. So it's just unbelievable. Of course, you gotta have the windows down too, because it is a beautiful day. It's in the 70s, and we're about in the middle of March. So couldn't ask for any better weather than that. So the other project car that I have is a 1992 Pontiac Firebird, and I'll make a video on that coming up in the future. So both of these builds, both of these projects, I'm going to start a series to basically document from start to finish the project between the Firebird and this car. Thing I'm going to talk about is the fact that if you want to buy one of these E36s, now is the time to do it. Okay? So they're already starting to go up in value. You're already seeing probably 10 grand or more for clean ones. Okay? So if you want one of these E36s, now is the time to buy one. I'm telling you, we've already seen the skyrocket in prices on the E46. The E36 will soon follow suit. First it was the E30s, then it was the E46s. People love these cars. This chassis is amazing. And people are starting to realize that. And now they're becoming harder and harder to find. So if you want to buy one, now is the time to do it. That is why I could not turn this car down. I've always loved the E36. It's always been my true favorite generation of M3. And now is the time to buy it. So if anyone's curious, no, this car is not for sale. Okay? Don't even ask. I love this car. Besides, you don't want a rusty E36 like this anyway. This car is going to cost probably a lot more for me to fix than it's going to be worth. But you know what? Making money on it is not the point. I bought this car because I've always wanted an E36. I love it. And it's got a cool ass story behind it. That traction control really works. So I haven't made a YouTube video on this channel in forever, and I kind of fell out of it a little bit. I did start another channel up briefly, and the thing is, it's so much work to edit, to film and edit these videos. Basically, a lot of times it takes an entire day off work just to put out one video if, I'm really putting the effort into it. So if you guys would like to see more of this, more car videos about the M3 and about the Firebird even, let me know. Just let me know if you want to see stuff like this, because I really love and enjoy making stuff like this. And I'm not doing it to try to gain popularity or, try to make money on it, anything like that. I'm strictly doing this because it's a blast, honestly. It's a blast to film and edit these videos. So that's all I have for you guys today. Thanks for tuning in. Please like, share, subscribe. If you want to see more stuff like this, leave a comment down below, and I'll see you guys in the next video.